Webinar show rates. You see, most people, when they're on their path to increasing their show rate from their webinars, which I found to be one of the highest leverage points of the funnel, is to increase your webinar show rate. They'll do one of two things. Number one, they'll send more emails, more text. They'll just do more, and they think that'll solve the problem. Or number two, they'll just abandon everything that they're doing entirely. They'll either switch the webinar to a new date, they'll switch the webinar to a new time, and they think that will be the highest point of leverage to increase their overall show rate. Well, I found that webinar show rates come down to a couple of key things, which I'm going to outline inside this video. So if you don't already know who I am, my name is Marc-Anthony, and I run a company called Scaling Webinars, where we help high-ticket coaches, creators, and consultants scale their offers with webinars. We've done over $10 million in webinar sales and counting. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how you can increase your webinar show rate with our master show rate SOP. All right, so let's get right into it. Show rate on your webinar. This is one of the biggest things that can make or break your webinar. So typically you see people show rate hover between 15 to 20%. I've seen as low as 10% show rate, which is like incredibly horrible. If you have a 10% webinar show rate, you should probably deep dive into everything that you're doing right now, because it is probably bad. There's 4 steps to increasing webinar show rate. The first step, well, the first thing that you can do to increase your webinar show rate, I found this to be the highest point of leverage increasing your webinar show rate. SMS, okay? Now, you're probably thinking like, duh, I already sent text, but hold on, don't click off the video. What most people do with their SMS is they'll blast reminders, right? They'll say, you know, this is person looking at their phone, and they'll be like, hey, show up to my webinar. And then they'll get blocked, right? This person will block their number. They will never talk to them ever again, right? So these are texts that you do not want to send. Instead, you should send communicative texts. What does that mean? You should treat texting like if you're messaging a friend, a family member, right? Someone that you actually give a crap about, essentially. Texting in your business should be a two-way communication, okay? You should never send an SMS and not expect a response. And if you do expect a response, you should be responding. So here's our exact webinar SMS sequence that we use. So right when someone opts in, right when a lead opts in, we send them a couple of texts. The first one is immediately after they register. What we do is we include link to join, and then we tell them the date and time. It's kind of crazy. If you don't tell people the date and the time, like, they just will not remember anything that you say. That's the very first message that we send. Then after that, and shout out to Eli, he runs an agency also with webinars. I took this text from him, and it increased our webinar show rate a couple of points. So 5 minutes after you send this first text, then you're going to send another text asking them if they received this first text, and to respond back, just some keyword, either ready, locked in, or whatever. So you want a response. Once you get a response, you then should have a physical human who is communicating back and forth with this person once they get a response. Either telling them, hey, just saw that you just registered, right? Do you need anything? Do you have the link, X, Y, and G? If they respond back to you, you should be responding to them in a text message format, okay? I call these people webinar inbox managers. A very effective role, okay? So that's the first 2 texts that you're gonna send, okay? Now let's move on. Now, the next message that you're going to send is 24 hours before the webinar, okay? Where you're again going to ask for a response, okay? So this is the third message in this sequence. You're going to ask them something along the lines of, what's the number one thing that you're looking forward to learning on our free training? Or do you have any questions, okay? I call these SMS engagement tracks. Woo! Hope you guys can read my handwriting. It's an engagement trap, okay? So you want to trap their engagement. So they're going to message you, tell you, hey, you just signed up for my day trading webinar. Do you have any questions about day trading? Okay, well, can I do this with a full-time job? Can I do this? Can I do this? Then again, you have your inbox manager that's messaging all these leads, okay? This will keep people engaged throughout the sales process. The next text that you're going to send is right when the day of the webinar actually occurs, okay? You're going to remind them of the webinar, make sure they have the link, time, plus date again. So you want to structure the text to be FOMO heavy. Like, we're about to get into X, Y, and Z thing, or doors are shutting soon, or X, Y, or something that I know, shout out to Eli, that his team does is they message from the assistant of the person. So, hey, this is the assistant from X, Y, and Z offer owner's name. They just want to make sure that you got the link. Are you all good to go? Okay, so you can frame it differently. You can frame it from another person's, that is from like an outsourced POV. Wow, can't talk today. And that just gives the offer owner a little bit more authority. Or you do some sort of FOMO text, and I like the FOMO text personally. Okay, so that covers the SMS. So that's exactly what you're going to do for your SMS in order to increase your webinar show up rate. Okay, it's super important that you have some sort of inbox manager that's there at all times that can just message people throughout the sales process, keeping them engaged. Now, this is through SMS, and moving on to the next part of the show rate process is, so email works similarly with SMS from us, when we're asking for engagement from prospects, okay? But it's a tad bit different, okay? So SMS, like I said, we view it as more two-way communication. Emails, I want to increase consumption when they're in the sales process, okay? So we have dense emails. Our emails are fairly long. So this is our exact email sequence, okay? Email number 1, I call it the intro email. This email is when you sell them on you, the person. So in order for someone to buy on your webinar, they have to be convinced of 3 things, okay? They have to be sold on you as the guide that can take them to where their destination, where their desired result is. They have to be sold on the vehicle. So what is essentially the ship? If you are the captain, what is the ship that we're riding on to take us to the destination? And more importantly, they need to be sold on themselves, that I am the person capable of doing this, okay? So the intro email, we sell them on you, okay? Who are you? Why should they care about you? What is your credibility? How did you happen upon the vehicle? Okay? Then, the next email after that, I'm typically pointing them to some sort of YouTube video or resource. Again, I just want to increase consumption. This right here, this email right here, sells them on the vehicle. So, most of the people that we work with, they have YouTube videos on their channels. And some of the videos, or a video that they have, is typically about the vehicle. So, like, why you should be a day trader, or you should try keto instead of paleo, like something about the vehicle, okay? This should be educational in nature and literally just sell them on why your thing is the best. Why is your strategy the best, okay? That's what this should be, okay? Then, emails 3 to 5 are objection handlers. What does this do? It sells them on themselves, okay? All the limiting beliefs that you have as a person, that you believe that you can achieve X, Y, and Z things, this email sequence sells them on that, okay? Now, it is super important that you don't handle objections around the offer. That's one of the biggest no-nos that I see with people's email sequences before the webinar. They'll start talking about the program or different things of that nature. You don't want to handle objections around the offer. You want to handle objections around reasons they would not show up to your webinar, which are typically because of the vehicle. Okay, they are not yet convinced on the ship that they are going to get on in order to get them to the result. Okay, so all of these objections should be handled around the vehicle, such as something along the lines of, I don't have time to do this, or I've tried other things before similar to this and failed. Okay, you want to handle objections. The way that you get this, go to your sales call recordings, extract the top 3 objections that you get, and roll with that. The very next email is reminder email. This is morning of, very similar to text. This email, we are asking for a response, okay? And we are also alluding to some sort of free gift that they're going to be given once they attend. I love to give freebies during the webinar. This increases our show rate a lot. But it's important that you structure the freebie in a way that it doesn't take away from the main offer. Super important. That's a mistake that I see a lot of people make. Then we have another 15-minute reminder email. Then we are live. Well, these emails are very short in nature. You want these to be short, punchy, to the point. They can read all of this. Like I like to think of these emails, I call them above the fold emails. So if you're a marketer, then you know that the page that you land on when you land on a landing page, the most important part of that page is above the fold. All the copy you can see on your mobile device. Above the fold emails are the same exact thing. You want them to be able to read everything without scrolling, okay? Super important. So we covered emails and we covered text, okay? Now, what else do you need on your path to increasing your webinar show rate, okay? This I have not seen many people talk about on the internet, okay? But when we did this increased one of our accounts from a show rate of 15% to 36% show rate. When we did one simple thing, that is call leads. That's it. Call your leads. I don't know how much I can emphasize this. Call your leads, okay? So what we have is we have setter teams that the day of the webinar, they're making about $400 each, okay? So I like to do this the day of the webinar because the thing is, if you do it before the day before the webinar and the day of the webinar, it loses its impact of setters calling the leads. You want to call them same day of, remind them it is that day. Now, your setter teams are going to have to be fully bought into this, but if you have an organization with high standards, then you shouldn't have an issue, especially when the setters will make more money if more people show up to their sales calls. To the webinar, okay? Call your leads, okay? So setters, have them make $250 to $400. If you look at the link down below, there's our dial confirmation script that you can take, right? Very simple, just asking them, hey, did you get the link? If they didn't get the link, then you send it over. Even if they did get the link, you still make sure they got it. And the second thing that you ask is simply, why did you register? Get their pain, right? Then say, okay, cool, amazing. X, Y, and Z person is going to cover that on the training today. Make sure you attend, okay? This right here, I cannot stress enough. Do this. If you do nothing else from this video, if you just do this, you will have a higher show rate. I can almost guarantee that, okay? Now, we went over SMS, we went over dials, and we went over emails, okay? Now, what else can you do on your path to increasing webinar show rate? And here is, again, something that I hear no one talk about. So we run ads to our webinars. What most people do is they have elongated promo sequences, okay? So if webinar is on a Monday, for example, they'll start ads 7 days prior. And they'll equally distribute spend throughout the day, right? And to most people, this makes the most sense. I even see some people start the process 10 days prior, okay? Well, if you understand anything about human behavior, when a lead opts into something, their interest is at an all-time high, okay? But as time elongates, their interest goes from here all the way down the more time elapses, okay? So this is time, and this is intent. The more time elapses, the more intent falls, okay? So, because of this, we do not run our webinars 7 days prior with a promotion sequence. Instead, our promo sequence is 2 to 3 days max. If you can err on the side of 2 days, then that's even stronger. I know some of you thinking here is like, oh my gosh, I gotta get off. If you're spending money in ads, you gotta put your balls on the table. You gotta have some big brass balls in order to spend, $60K to like $100K what our clients are spending in 48 hours. Here's a tip, and maybe I'll have our CMO Brian make a video about this, but here's a tip. You just want to slightly increase budget as everything holds. You want to increase budget 10 to 20% every hour-ish or so. Sometimes you can do it a little bit more aggressively, especially if you have winning ads and you are a more seasoned media buyer. But here's a general rule of thumb. Just increase your budget 10 to 20% every hour-ish or so. And as long as results hold, keep doing that. And you'll be able to get off this much spend in that exact amount of time that you need. Okay? Now, those things, period. If you do these things, okay? To recap, we have conversational text, conversational SMS. Then we have dense emails. The number 3 is call your leads, scale ads. If you do all 4 of these different things, you will see your webinar show up rate increase, and you'll make a lot more money from your webinars. I hope you found this incredibly valuable. So I'm going to leave some free resources down below that will include our dial confirmation script, because out of all of these, we found that this is the strongest lever to pull, especially when you're running your webinars. So go ahead, grab that. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that around our team running webinars for your business, go ahead, click the link below in the first description. Check out that video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.